Hello. For the last 2 years, Paul McCartney's been working on a new feature film, Give My Regards to Broad Street, directed by Peter Webb. A musical fantasy, Broad Street was conceived, written and initially funded by McCartney, and marks his first major involvement in a film since Help, A Hard Day's Night and The Magical Mystery Tour. Not surprisingly, the film contains a great deal of music, some original, and numbers drawn from the whole of McCartney's repertoire, covering the Beatles' years, Wings and his most recent solo albums. Broad Street also marks McCartney's first chance to score a full feature, and as collaborator he chose George Martin, the man responsible for producing the first hit he ever wrote. This gave us our line on the project, and over the course of a year the South Bank show followed the making of Broad Street. John Carlo's film concentrates on the composing, recording and mixing of the score and the soundtrack, sitting in on the professional relationship between Paul McCartney and the musical director George Martin.
Good, isn't it? E?
Yeah.
Yeah. G minor there. Bam. 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 G minor.
Not there though.
Oh yeah, your slinky one, yeah.
All right. Okay.
Let's write it.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's write the song right here. Yeah, you know, yeah. Yeah.
Or whatever.
What's it in F or? What's it, is it?
Oh, there, yeah. Yeah. So you're using a C7.
In the key of F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll make a lovely song.
What was that?
That's an E flat minor. It's a great effect.
Yeah, it'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, let it hang on and shh.
Yeah.
Road drills.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started it, I'd heard all these terrible stories, you know, and I say David Putnam had said to me, be prepared to give up a year of your life. And I really didn't like the thought of that. I thought, well, no, you know, it'll take some of my time, but I'll be able to do plenty of other things. So I fought that idea, and when Peter and I were going to make it, I said, look, one thing we've really got to try and say we're going to do is, like, enjoy ourselves on this film. Because they all have heart attacks and tear their hair out and all go mad. So we've got to really try and enjoy it. Yeah.
The motivation for this scene. Yeah, what do you think? I should, you know, come on strong, or just you know.
He needs his motivation, Pete.
I think it's.
Do you want the moody? Do you want the moody?
Do you want the moody, Pete?
Or do you want the?
I think it's
He's got to know. He's got to know.
between that and the other. You know,
Okay, I've got it clear. That's clear.
You want a cigarette?
I've got it. I've got it. He's got it now. Yeah.
Like
Yeah, take this glass of wine and go and sort it out.
I know.
Solid. Good
I
morning.
know,
This is
I was
Graham
told
Big
about
on
it
the
last
Breakfast Show,
week,
8
but that
minutes
is
to
the
9. Do go easy.
The point is that we are sitting in the middle of a traffic jam, the proportions of which would astound you.
I just wanted to do a film. Wanted to be involved in making a film, one way or another. And I was looking for scripts, looking through scripts as everyone does. And I didn't really find anything that I wanted to do. So I was in a traffic jam one day, and I decided to have a go at writing something, you know, that might be a script for a TV film or a feature film or something. So I started doing that in longhand with pencil. just fill in sheets of paper. And eventually I had a lot of paper in a plastic bag. So I put that in order and then sent it to a couple of people and said, what do you think of this? And they sent it back with another script attached saying, what do you think of this? Don't like yours much, but this one's great. So I was getting a bit discouraged.
What didn't they like about it? Did anybody say what they didn't like about your film version?
I think, looking back on it, what I wouldn't have liked about it was its unprofessionalism. It's nice to get things like scripts where you've got some idea of what's going on. I'd left a lot to my imagination and to the director's imagination. Because I didn't know formally how you write a script, saying, cut to, you know, and then all that paragraph and then dialogue and all that. I'd done it more like a kind of school essay or something, you know, just I hadn't bothered about the technical side of it.
You're appearing in it, you're starring in it, and you're starring in it as somebody who is based on yourself. How did you manage to cope with all that?
Modesty's overwhelming, isn't it?
Modest role.
Now, I mean, you won't believe it when I tell you, but the real truth is, and it was only halfway through the filming that I realised what I'd bitten off. Suddenly realised the film hinged on me, and whether I was good in it or not, I hadn't realised that. So it came as a surprise, actually, when I suddenly realised I had all these pressures. But it's nothing new, really. You know, I've felt that pressure before, where you suddenly think, ooh. And there's no turning back. You can't just... You do feel like ringing everyone up, saying, listen, let's not make this film. Let's forget. Let's all go to Brighton. You know. But you know you can't. You know you just can't. So you just stuck with it. There were a couple of weekends, though, when I did suddenly think, oh, God, you know, I'm putting my whole reputation on the line. I'm, you know.
And action, gentlemen.
Does that sound to you like a man who's planning to rob someone?
Hello! I'm Terry. We met a long time ago at the Playhouse. I don't suppose you remember.
I think so.
Yes, oh, yes. How nice. Will you follow me?
What are we doing? Interviewing two songs.
Yes, well, we'll do the interview first, if you don't mind.
So where's the capos, then? Which is the one that's wide enough?
All of these are wide enough.
As well as acting and writing, Broad Street provided McCartney with his first opportunity at composing incidental film music. In the past, he has written film themes, most notably The Honorary Consul and Live and Let Die, which was scored and arranged by George Martin. Here they adopted the same technique they've used over the years, McCartney providing the musical outline and composition, with George Martin scoring, shaping and producing the performance.
Play this just with the original guitar, just not the two. Yeah, a bit more original. It's very high up the neck. Can't really get my fingers to bog it.
I don't think it matters playing that middle, because I don't think it'll get in the way of the harpsichord anyway.
But I'll work something out. Okay?
George Martin's association with McCartney began in 1962. In 8 years, he produced every record the Beatles made, including 17 #1 hits. His production became an integral part of their success.
Well, she loves you. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. Lost your love. Well, I saw her yesterday. She's thinking of, and she told me what to say. She said she loves you, and you know that can be bad. Loves you, and you know you should be glad. She said you can't say. She almost lost her mind. Now she says she knows you're not the hurt kind. She said she loves you, and you know that can be bad.
Cuddle up, lads.
With the demise of the Beatles in 1970, Martin never expected to work with any of them again. It came as a surprise when 8 years later, after Wings, McCartney approached him to work on his new solo LP, Tug of War, and subsequently, Broad Street.
Well, one of the things that worried me when we started working together, and I said this before we actually started working, do you think it's a good idea? Because, you know, why spoil a beautiful friendship? Because he'd been used to working by himself for 7 or 8 years and wasn't used to having a producer telling him, that's no good, or you should do this again. And I wondered how he would react to it. And he said, oh, we know each other so well, I don't think it'd be a problem. I said, well, there might be, but we'll see. And the first thing that happened was, I said, well, first of all, I think we ought to look at your material and see what the songs are like. And he said, well, do you mean I've got to pass an audition? So I could see that might have been a problem. But in fact, it worked out fine. We got into a method of working where we weren't rubbing each other up the wrong way too much. There's got to be a certain amount of abrasion.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If you have an idea for a bit of picture, it might possibly work. It'd be good to see it. That's what the idea is, you know, to have a look at it, some pictures, and see what it does now. You know, talking about worried music and stuff. This kind of works.
Do you want to bump any of those down?
What's the sort of strict function of the producer in the case of working with McCartney and so used to working on his own?
Well, we make up our own rules, don't we? In my case, in starting off with Paul, I said, well, this song is great, or this song is lousy, or this song can be good if we modify it. In other words, you need another verse here, and you need to go somewhere else which you haven't written yet. You've got to do something different to it. And I think that's in the wrong key for you. You should put it down a bit. All those kind of things, you know, and it's just a question of shaping.
Someone like George, I know how he works and he knows how I work. So you don't have to go explaining to each other what you do. But the main thing is that he just is very good. He's a very good producer.
On stage, please.
Can I get some of your time later to talk?
You can have hours, but you got to give me a minute. See you later.
So is this the right vocal?
I think so, yeah.
We'll check it.
There.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ballroom Dancing is one of the major production numbers in the film. It was first recorded for the Tug of War LP. Why did you choose the songs for the film?
When I wrote the script, I just put music 1 to 10. I just sort of said, he goes here, so and then they do music 1. Music 2, music 2, music 10. And I left all the songs open till the last possible moment. And then I gave the director a list of songs that I would be happy to sing. Because some of them, you know, they may be nice songs, but you're not in the mood for them. You know, you go through periods where a painter likes that painting, and then he goes off it, and, you know, or an album track. You love one, and you go off it a bit, and you just... So I gave him ones I was on at that particular time. And he mainly narrowed it down to stuff that we agreed would work with the plot. So that we put it in mainly for plot reasons, most of the songs.
Like cats and dogs, we made it up in the ballroom.
That's not the right vocal.
Yeah, wait a minute,
That's wrong.
I mean, everything's live, so that should be... We've got a different take there. I think it's 694.
Yeah.
694 takes.
We knew in the story we were going to be at a film studio. And that meant to me that was the greatest excuse to do a production number, which I'd secretly fancied doing anyway. Because I like those numbers in a big Fred Astaire number, or, I mean, what's that one with that huge cake? 42nd Street, is it? Yeah, the endless Busby Berkeley. I mean, I like all that stuff. I've always liked that. Just I like a big show like that, you know. So I wanted to do something like that in the film. And Peter Webb, the director, liked Ballroom Dancing particularly. He liked that number. And so he said, can we do that, please? You know, he put in his requests too. So obviously, you know, if the director's requesting to do it, he's got some feeling for it too. So it all just came together like that, you know.
940 take 2, B&C cameras.
Okay, yeah, here we go. 24 second, I'll play back.
Rehearsing and filming to pre-recorded playback tracks is the conventional method of production for a musical. But in the case of Broad Street, this was overlaid with a more sophisticated recording technique.
One of the main things that Paul said to me when we started was, I'd like the music to be exciting because I don't want it to be pre-recorded and mimed to it. I think it's pretty dull stuff. So he said, I want everything that we see on the film to be live. And I kind of did my skeptical bit, and I said, well, do you really mean that? Because that's a pretty awesome task, because if you're singing a pretty important song with a lot of complicated backing, to do it live with all the cameras, worrying about your camera angles and everything else and all the sets, you're asking for too many things to be taken into consideration for that shot. He said, I don't think so. So I said, well, in that case, let's cover ourselves. Let's first of all do the tracks in the ordinary way, the way films are normally made. You normally do your music first, and then you set it up and film once the music's done. But then also, let us record live on top. And we wanted to record in 24-track form. So we actually were playing back 24 tracks into the film studio, recording 24 tracks, and locking to camera. And all those three things together, I don't think have ever been done before.
We wanted to avoid the thing where you see a film and the camera goes into a guitarist's fingers, and it's a guitarist you really love and you love his style, and he's not playing it. He's down here playing some bass solo or something, and the guitar's going screaming away up here. And anyone who can play guitar, and that's a lot of people like me, know that that's happening. Anyone who can play piano knows if you're up there and it's sounding like this, there's something wrong somewhere, So to get over that, we had to, if you went in on a close-up, we had to re-record live. And that gave the camera people and the technical people a lot of synchronization problems.
Your lead time in will be from, but it always wasn't such a pretty sight, okay?
So Chris, we won't bother about, you'll hear it on playback this time. We'll learn it from that, okay?
Mark does all that up there.
Sure. But this is where we used to go, and say I only ever dared to ask a girl to do the last waltz, and that was because you had to do one dance, so you wouldn't feel you'd been to a dance. And there's nearly always a fight, especially when we were the band, there was always a fight, so it's a mixture of all of those memories.
You were saying about the fight, always seem to gravitate towards the band.
Always gravitates towards the band, and they always try and get on the stage, because it's showbiz, really, a ballroom fight.
Are you talking about early Beatles days? Or,
Yeah. Grosvenor Ballroom, Wallasey, Grace, with my little El Pico amp. And some fella grabbed it and he said, "One move and you're dead." You can have it.
Well, it went so fast, we all grew up. Now the days are fast in a giant cup are the memories of another day. And I wouldn't want to knock it.
The re-recording of live music over pre-recorded material worked well with songs of fixed length. But in ballroom dancing, a number with an extended choreographed middle section, problems arose when the action failed to fit the music.
Well, up till this morning, this number was running 4 minutes, 16 seconds, and that was the track we prepared about 2 months ago. But then when they set it up in position, they saw all the hundreds of people involved and all the amount of time it took. They realized they weren't going to get the whole action sequence in our 4 minutes, 16 seconds. So the director came to me and said, we want to extend the track by 1.5 minutes. Well, it's already been recorded, so I had to go away and do some experimental editing, which I presented back to him as a kind of demo, and they're going to rehearse with that this afternoon.
Have you got the... Yeah. Just the edit you've done?
Yep. You know where it goes into the brass bit?
Yeah.
The brass bit comes, the vocal comes back in. If instead of having the rhythm bit, I think we cut straight into the voice. It'd be better.
2.
See what you think.
1, 2, you've done it. Apaches.
We're still in that.
Instead of which we've done this.
That's all right for me, though.
Timber, isn't it? I'll play it again in a moment. You all right?
Have you played this to Peter?
No, not yet. I'm not sure.
Everyone would have it's best for everyone to know about the key change and also to do it right. But then that needs us to put it on the slave, which needs us to like harmonise it all up a semitone or something. I'm not sure anyway. You know, I was wondering about
what
key
we'll know
changes. It's a
today.
little bit
What we need to know.
unethnic, maybe. You
Well,
know,
what we know on the rehearsal is how many of those bars, whether we need that full length of bars for the fight sequence anyway. If
They'll
we do,
probably use
I mean, you
anything
might do
we
your
can-
key change within that and come back to the other one. That's
yeah, that
one
kind
way
of
of doing
stuff we
it.
can do. Yeah.
We'll see.
That's right.
It
Yeah,
might make it
It
interesting.
might be nice to just do something like that. Okay, but that's good for length. So
All
let's
right,
just
lovely.
check with see if Peter's happy with that.
Right.
Okay. Lunch.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, this section here, you see, obviously is repeated with different faded up. For the,
Yes,
for the next
because we had to
sequence.
lengthen it.
Exactly.
So we have to mix it separately, do we?
Yep. Well, you see, what we do is we go over the whole tape again and we bring up different faders to overlap that particular sequence to make it longer. Because the film is about 2 minutes longer than what we got on tape.
Yeah. And then we can, overdub on that then, yeah?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, that should work.
I like that effect,
Sound
actually.
back.
I think that'll work if we use it, you know,
Yeah.
with a certain degree of discretion.
With no discretion whatsoever. The worst possible taste. Have you got those words, Trev?
A unique feature of Broad Street is the inclusion of 3 of McCartney's most popular early songs, including For No One and Eleanor Rigby. Until this South Bank show, he's never re-recorded or been seen performing these songs.
Okay, something like this then, George. Your day breaks, your mind aches. You find that all the words of kindness linger on when she no longer needs you. She wakes up, she makes up, she takes the time and doesn't feel she has to hurry. She no longer needs you, and in her eyes you see nothing. No sign of love behind the tears cried for no one. A love that should have lasted years. You want her, you need her, and yet you don't believe her when she says her love is dead. You think she needs you. French horn. In her eyes you see nothing. No sign of love behind the tears cried for no one. Love that should have lasted years. You stay home, she goes out. She says that long ago she knew someone, but now he's gone, she doesn't need him. Your day breaks, your mind aches. There will be times when all the things you said will fill your head. You won't forget her, and in her eyes you see nothing. Sign of love behind the tears cried for no one. A love that should have lasted years. It's just a nice song to sing, that one. It's And I like doing it, and it's a long time since I've rediscovered it, actually. I'm rediscovering some of my old songs, because it now is, it's years since we did it. And so to re-sing them isn't painful like it would have been 10 years ago when the Beatles were breaking up, because it was a reminder of all the wonderful days. Well, now there's enough water gone under the bridge for it to be a reminder of the wonderful days again, and not of the hell of the breakup.
And in her eyes you see nothing, no sign of love behind the tears, cried for no one, a love that should have lasted.
I'm remembering songs that the Beatles, John and I, did way back when. And the interesting thing about them is that you don't hear about them these days. You hear about our well-known tracks. You're always hearing about Strawberry Fields or Sgt. Pepper or something, because those have gone down as some kind of milestone. But these other tracks, they were B-sides, and I just remember how they were written and the thrill I got of writing them, and why I liked to sing them, because the bass line went down as the tune went up or whatever it is. And those things still hold. They're still nice to sing. So something like For No One. I mean, I was toying around with the idea of songs like I'll Get You. I mean, I don't know if you remember that one. It's, oh yeah, I'll get you in the end. Oh yeah, you know. But I love it. I love the period. I love the kind of innocence of those songs and the structure. They're just very simple little songs. And so it's nice going back to the simplest period we ever had, or I ever had as a writer. Probably one of the simplest periods I've ever been through. And rediscovering that I quite like them, and that they weren't just simple to be dismissed. They were lasting simple. I think that's what I like about them.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be.
Very bloody appropriate.
There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had...
Some of the fans, not to say, well, to extend the word into its full, give it all its syllables, the fanatics about your early songs will think that there's been a huge sellout, a great affront, blasphemy to the early songs by redoing them at all.
I don't know. I thought of that. I didn't think long on it, but I did think, oh, you're redoing Beatles songs, sacrilege. Wow, hey man, heavy. But then I thought, no, that's not true at all. They're my songs. I mean, you mean I can't sing them ever again? And I thought that was more unreasonable an approach, that you're not allowed to sing those songs. I couldn't find one single reason why not, except good taste or something, and I don't think that's true, really. Mind you, Ringo has got another approach. Ringo's got more of the approach you were suggesting, because I wanted to play... Well, I didn't actually want to do it that bad, but the director wanted me to do Hey Jude, I think it was. And there's some very high notes in that, and I didn't fancy recreating them. I mean, you know, that's pretty hard to sing, some of those bits. So I wasn't looking forward to it, but I thought, well, I'll do it. You know, he wants me to do it, no big deal. But, you know, I don't like to make these things that big a deal, because it isn't really. It's only a song, isn't it? So I thought, well, I'll do that, and I asked Ringo if he'd be comfortable about doing it. He said, I'm not doing that again, you're kidding. He said he wouldn't drum on any Beatles stuff. I think, and his approach is, I've done it. I've made the record where I'm terrific on Hey Jude, and it worked, you know. So don't ask me to do it again. And I understand that, you know. I think that's all right that he thinks like that. And I did have a bit of that feeling, but not enough of it. this has been...
How have you two of you worked together? I mean, have you done a lot of work on the scoring and arranging yourself?
I would take a video home of the scene we were going to do, and I would write a tune the way I'd do it, which would be to sort of sing it, whistle it, put it on a cassette, and do something, the basic framework, the skeleton of the whole thing. And then I'd sit down with George and show him the video and say, this is what I think. And I'd say, well, I see cellos doing that bit. And he'd say, well, wait a minute, you've just gone out of the cello range, so we'll bring it up a little bit, and we can have the violas will do that. That technical information I need off George, because if a top note on a French horn is F, you know, I want to hear him play a G.
One of the problems in our film is we don't hear anything above 8 kilohertz. So all the hi-fi stuff we put in.
So can you play this with no 8 kilohertz in? Knock out everything.
Yeah, I'll show you. It's going to sound. Can you give it just one couple of pages?
As well as coming to grips with the technicalities of film music, McCartney saw Broad Street as an opportunity to experiment with new forms of composition.
It's literally a film going through a photoelectric cell, and they just can't cope with higher frequencies. That's impossible.
The big direction I was interested in was that round about the time of writing Eleanor Rigby, when it must have been something like, I don't know, 25 or something, I was looking at the age of 30 and thinking, what am I going to be doing then, as we all were? And in my case, you know, it was a sort of young profession, the music thing, pop thing. And I was looking at it, having just written Eleanor and worked with George on this kind of classical, quasi-classical thing, backup, instead of electric guitars for the first time in my life. I quite liked it. I liked the tone, I liked the dynamics of classical instruments. They're not all just on one level. There's quite good tonal ranges in them. So I was interested in that. And I did look at the age of 30 thinking, yeah, that's what I could do. I could become more into the sort of serious side of music rather than just pop hit, pop hit. But that never really happened. I just still was intrigued with pop hit and 3-minute folk song.
1, 2, 3. Ah, look at all the lonely people. Ah, look at all the lonely people. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong?
McCartney's chance to extend his composing skills came here with Eleanor Rigby. Using the same theme, the fantasy was designed to move from the Albert Hall into a Victorian landscape. The rough cut of the final sequence proved to be longer than first envisaged, and in its new length was presented back to McCartney for scoring.
All the lonely people.
To make things even worse, just for something to edit to, they'd put a Brahms violin concerto on for the track. So it was like, oh God, you know, what have they left us with 8 minutes here that we didn't know was coming? With a Brahms type mood to it. So that was the thing, you know, it's like, well, how to get out of that was the one. And so I took that kind of problem home and then thought, well, you know, if I turn the sound down on the video, and I just tried to write my own kind, sort of classical music, sort of film score. Tunes, really. I mean, it's still just tunes, the way I see it. You know, it's still I mean, classical music is just a lot of tunes, or one reoccurring tune, or whatever, but it still generally is still what I do. But it's just a different way of doing it. So I approached it from my same old angle, which is to get a tune I like, to voice it the way I like it, to get the dynamics how I like them, to get it to come and go, to reoccur, and to do all the stuff I like to have happen in my music. But the big thing was there were no words to help me out, and to suddenly you couldn't keep bringing back choruses and stuff. It had to fit with the film. And I must say I enjoyed that. Harking back to this, what will I be doing when I was 30? Here I was at 40, being forced into what I thought I might have been doing at 30. So it kind of fitted. I thought, well, yeah, it's probably about time I tried to just do something different for me. So we've ended up, I'm not sure how long it is, I think it's about 9 or 10 minutes, where it just is pure music. It just is a classical orchestra. And they rabbit on for about 9 minutes. But I like the end effect.
They all belong.
I mean, we've all been saying, you know, even Mick Jagger, all been saying, well, at 50, he can't leap around like that at 50. I mean, come on, Mick, you know, own up. You know, we just can't, love. Anyway, so you've got to be looking at something that's a little bit quieter, and you've got to be looking, in my case, I've always had this thing of composer as well as sort of singer and bass player. And I've always really liked it. It's always been one of my secret little dreams, you know. In a corny way, I've always liked that role of composer. So to see myself actually sitting down at the piano, I was really just checking for boredom and just checking, do I hate this, you know, or am I actually enjoying this? And I found when I got it right, to my satisfaction, I really enjoyed it.
Out over the last 15 years for somewhere else to go.
50.
For somewhere else to go, you found one of the things that the other areas weren't attractive enough. I mean, people about your age writing other sorts of music obviously weren't persuading you that it was a desirable area to enter into.
That's right, yeah. I've always had my idea, I had my sights vaguely set on a musical. Probably because people often used to say to John and myself, when are you going to write your musical then? You know, Lennon and McCartney sounds like a musical writing team, you know. And they did often used to say that to us. But no, it's never been attracted by the field, really. I've often thought, you know, one of these days things will be right. You know, conditions will be right, and I'll feel like doing it. But I don't really like to do anything unless that, what they call fire in the belly, is there, you know. If I actually wake up and think, oh, then I'll do I'll do something based on that. But if I wake up and think, oh, that's a good idea, well, I'm not sure, you know. And the minute I'm backing off, I think it's not that good anyway. I like to have quite a powerful feeling about a thing. So with something like a musical and those kind of fields, and even film music, to tell you the truth, I'd never, there's another side of me, my little conscience saying, come on, you're just posing. You just want to kind of be, you know, well thought of. Oh, now he's a classical composer. And it's that kind of Liverpool thing, saying, you big poser, you know. So I've got to be really sure in my own mind that I'm not posing and that I actually do like it. You know, I don't want to do something just because it's poncy. I want to do it because I actually want to do it.
Is there a sense in which you miss having that person to talk to, in this case John Lennon to talk to? Is there a sense in which, if he'd been here, you could have moved on together?
I doubt very much whether John and I would have ever got back together writing. I think because of his breaking up with the Beatles and his association in other fields with Yoko, for instance, I think it would have been very hard to come back together. So I doubt whether we would have. You know, there were a couple of opportunities, and you know, before he died, and it didn't look like we were really going to get back together again. But I would have liked it. I mean, I liked working with John, and I certainly do miss having someone, not having someone. I miss not having someone like that around. But you know, what can you do? What can you do? I mean, you know, I like the main thing for me with a collaborator is if I think of something, that person then will say, no, that's rubbish, or that's great, or it's average. And the feedback I do miss, and John's feedback in particular, because John was a special writer. You know, I think his stuff's got a lot of depth, and he's very easy to write with. But I say, you know, our partnership had broken up with the end of the Beatles. And so, I mean, what can you do? You know, it just came full circle. We did a lot of stuff together. I certainly wouldn't mind now to be writing with him, but he's not here.
Whole other mood, though. So I like this different mood.
Everything that happened from then on was his ideas, and without any support from John or from myself or from George or anyone, he was doing it alone. And that was much tougher than he had done before. A much more independent person, much more powerful person, and someone that has to be fought occasionally, not just, you know, it's a force that has to be reckoned with. He's also very much older. He's twice the age he was when he started. And he's 4 years older than I was when we started the Beatles. You know, and I was an old man then. So he is comparatively an old man. So he has had a great deal of experience. He's learned a tremendous amount. And the curiosity and the seeking of new frontiers hasn't left him. That's probably why he's gone into the film. He wants to do things that he hasn't done before.
And you think that, in a sense, is why he's come back to you, to spark off or to work with someone again?
I think he came to me because he felt that he wanted a collaborator of some sort, and he knew me and he could trust me, I suppose. The difficulty with someone like Paul is that he has so many people who want to work with him that, for different reasons, that he couldn't entirely trust them, I guess. It's very difficult when you're as successful as he is, you know, to find someone you can really rely upon.
But give my regards to Broad Street. I couldn't for the life of me think I was going to write a song saying that, unless it was I'm off on holiday, love, and I'm missing Leicester Square. So it didn't work. So anyway, in the end, I decided that that wasn't on and that nothing was coming, and I didn't feel good about that. It felt like too intense a problem. So I did what I always do, give up. When in doubt, give in. So that was good, because I got that off my brain. And then I'd been messing around in the studio with a bass thing. And it was just jamming one day when I had nothing to do. I come in here and, you know, just have a bit of fun on some of the equipment. And this was a bass I had. And I had an echo device on it. And I'd been playing those notes, down, 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 down. And the echo had been taking care of the rest of it. It was going, down, 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 down. And it made this tune, down, 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 down. And it was a riff, and it just went on and on and on and on for hours. But I asked them to tape it in case, because I thought it was like a good little idea for something somewhere. I thought it might be good for a chase scene or something in the film. I asked them to keep it. We ended up using that little piece of echoed bass at the very beginning of the picture when the titles came on. Actually, I did think when the time we recorded this, you know, this riff, when we
could alter it for different feels, couldn't we, to have a sort of... So I took those notes and wrote the tune called No More Lonely Nights, which then we used as the theme tune, but it just wasn't the title of the film as well. I'll do the C one. You do those chords.
I can wait another day until I call you. You've only got my heart on a string and everything aflutter. But another lonely night might take forever. We've only got each other to blame. It's all the same to me, love, 'cause I know what I feel to be right. No more lonely night, never be another. No more lonely night. You're my guiding light, day or night, I'm always there.
If you ever did another film, would you take on the whole shooting match again, financing it, virtually producing it, writing it, starring in it, and so on?
I've enjoyed doing it, even though I had all those crazy hats to wear. And even though I woke up halfway through it and in panic and thought, what have I taken on? That in the end, it's turned out so that I quite like it, and I liked the experience. And I say the disadvantages were outweighed by the advantages. So I'd think that I would take on another one. As to whether, I'd probably try not to write it next time. I'd probably try not to be anywhere near as heavily involved. And, I mean, probably if you ask me, I'd probably rather have a little character role rather than the sort of leading man. I'd probably rather just get made up as some 103-year-old old fella who sits in the corner, hey. Because, you know, that's what I really fancy. But again, that's something I've never done. I don't even know if I could do it, but I like having a go at these things. You know. Right to the end.
Yeah.
Right. Very end. I love the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
That may need to be a bit shorter for the record. I don't know. We'll see how about that fade. I know you like the end bit, but it runs.
Do you buy it then?
I'll buy it.
You buy it. I'll give it 5.
Will everybody else? Of course.